Ja, even. Good morning. My name is Don Yellowman. I am Diné. I live here on the Navajo Nation. I'm president of the Forgotten People, and my clans are Tsanahabili, Lizislanbashichin, Kapanashiche, and Honelani Edashinala. I like to read the prepared statement that I'd like to deliver this message to all that's out there. Because I believe that we, the Diné, are the holy people, endowed by our Creator to be stewards of our homelands and protectors of our traditional way of life. Diné is who we are, with the inalienable rights to clean air, clean water, and to live and thrive on our own motherlands. We are facing many issues on the Navajo Nation. The people are fighting for their water rights and against non-Navajo interests to our natural resources that support dirty energy production, which pollutes our air, water, and homelands. And ironically, we who live in Western Navajo have been denied electricity and access to potable water because of outside interests and policies like the Bennett Freeze. Today, many leaders are open and are said to support uranium mining on the Navajo Nation. Let us not forget the largest nuclear accident in the United States, which happened when a radioactive toxic waste dam broke and released its runoff into the Rio Preco River on July 16, 1979, at 5 a.m. on the Navajo Nation, less than 12 hours after President Carter had proposed plans to use more nuclear power and fossil fuels. On that morning, more than 1,100 tons of uranium mining waste tailings gushed through a packed mud dam near Church Rock, New Mexico. With the tailings, 100 million gallons of radioactive water gushed through the dam before the crack was repaired. Barely a word of this disaster ever found its way to the national media, even today, if any. Few Americans even know about this unspeakable disaster. It is my honor as President of the Forgotten People to introduce the People's Resolution 009-12. We, the Diné people, through the resolution demand the Navajo Nation and the United States government take immediate action to ensure our survival by funding the need to remediate the radioactive contamination in our air, water, and homelands. Uphold and honor the moratorium against mining uranium, until which time all contamination has been remediated. Support the People's Right to Know Act of 1986 and fund a People's Uranium Radiation Detection and Data Collection Network system. Ensure all downwind victims of uranium contamination be made eligible for compensation under the U.S. Radiation Exposure and Compensation Act of 1990. Calling for the Navajo Nation and the United States government to fund the remediation of uranium contamination, to honor the spirit of the uranium mining moratorium, and support the implementation of a radiation sensor monitoring system across the Navajo Nation. Therefore, we, the Forgotten People, have called upon the Navajo Nation, demand that it be resolved that our people, as all people, have the inalienable right to clean air, clean water, and the preservation of our sacred land. For the past 70 years, even before the nuclear disaster on our lands of 1979, in fact, since the days our people first worked in the uranium mines of our nation to build the atomic weapons that were used to end the Second World War, the people of the Navajo Nation have been misled, deceived, and ignored by the government about the dangers they have been exposed to. and coming devastation that would be brought upon our children. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and the lands we've labored and cherished over many generations. Nearly 30,000 of our people have made claims to the U.S. government under the law, demanding compensation and care for their cancers and suffering, and the suffering of their children and of our unborn from the poison of wind and water. Even though the mining has stopped, the toxic radioactive debris from these mines have been picked up by the winds to fall wherever the winds carry it. These places include our homes, our streams, our aquifers, our lungs, and the bodies of our children. The toxins will remain lethal for the next 4.5 billion years, and plague will not go away until we, as people, commit to ending it. This nuclear plague upon our nation is America's Chernobyl, and we will not be ignored or marginalized. For the Navajo people, the fight against the scourge is not a matter of ideology, it is a matter of life and death, and it is a fight we will not lose. Here again, our homelands are for sale for shale oil and shale gas. Enormous riches to non-natives, eager investors and corporations are poised to exploit. In this process, our motherlands that support life are again being subjugated. Radioactive, deadly radon gas will be emitted as it was from the uranium mining for the past decades. Our water will be threatened again, even as we have yet to clean up the last nuclear and continued assaults on our homelands from the mining. This time the threat will come from the radioactive tracers that will be used in hydraulic fracking, so that investors can forecast where the shale oil and shale gas will flow as they inject high pressure toxic fluids beneath our sacred lands. If we do not act now, before the agreements are signed behind closed doors, where the grassroots are excluded from discussion, a new plague of death and suffering will be inflicted upon us, just as it was 70 years ago when government didn't think we had the right to know. We, the forgotten people, today and forever demand an end to the needless suffering of our people. The deception of our government can no longer be allowed. We suffer as a result of policies and business practices approved and enacted upon the Navajo Nation, state of Arizona, and federal government elected officials. We call upon you to halt any and all political and business practices that affect us without first consulting with the people in an inclusive and transparent way. Today, we, the forgotten people, have put our government on notice that we, the people, know there is a better way and are determined as the net to build a sustainable future and support social, economic, and environmental justice. That they have an inalienable right under our treaties, human rights, civil rights, and rights as indigenous peoples, to not only exist but to also prosper. There can be new prosperity. There can be a better tomorrow for all, but that day will not come if we repeat the mistakes of yesterday, and if we allow those who would exploit our homelands today without first cleaning up the mess they left behind from past years. We as a nation and as a world know it is possible and necessary to protect ourselves from radioactive winds. We deserve to be informed and aware of the poison winds. A sensor alarm sound must be supported, alarming the people of the dangers the winds still carry today. If the Navajo Nation and the United States government choose not to support this system, our voices will again go unheard. The Navajo Nation and the United States government can and must begin installing a people's radioactive detection network, much like the one that the people demanded in Japan just a year ago following the nuclear disaster in Fukushima. 30 days later, their pleas were answered. They did not have to wait 70 years to be empowered with the life-saving information. We, the Navajo people today, and in the spirit of our elders, and for future generations who depend on those of us living today, will not wait another moment. The Navajo people are not strangers to battle. Our people have a long, proud tradition of serving on the front lines for the U.S. Armed Forces. And our code talkers are solely responsible for the outcome of World War II. Also, let us not forget, our miners helped build the nuclear arsenal that protected America from attack during the Cold War. We must mobilize to these challenges as warriors to battle. If need be, we will ride our horses on to Washington, D.C. It is imperative to our survival that we, the Diné people, once again become the masters of our destiny and force our rights to decide the destiny of our children. There must be a people's radioactivity detection system on the Navajo Nation, and we will not wait for it to be installed. We have already begun raising the funds needed to start it ourselves. All the downwind victims of the uranium contamination must be made eligible for compensation under the U.S. Radiation Exposure and Compensation Act of 1990. The U.S. EPA cleanup program started under the Bush administration. It must continue until the job is completed, not when the appropriations expire. The moratorium on new mining must be kept in place until the cleanup has been completed. The people must be empowered to set the rules and standards for any new mining on our lands. Let it be resolved that, as Diné people, we have been endowed not by government, but by our Creator, to the inalienable right to clean air, clean water, and the preservation of sacred lands. Let all who would seek our consent to gain access to these, our precious resources, and our mother, come first to the Diné people, so that we may seek the people's blessing. Yeah, thank you. And in closing here, I'd like to dedicate this moment to a beloved woman that resided in the Black Falls area. Her name was Floribel Paddock. She lived in a peaceful community where uranium contamination is a big way of life. She passed recently, and in her honor we want to carry on this struggle to let it be known that she will always be remembered in this struggle to eliminate the contamination of uranium. She lived next to a spring, Paddock Springs, that was contaminated, that she didn't know for all these years. So in her honor, I want to let it be known that we honor and respect her efforts in helping us for all these years. Thank you.